Help from Pros Before Bros. Thank you for tuning in on this disgusting, dreary January evening. Cincinnati is having their blizzard right now, and the blizzard is basically rain. That's all it is. It's gonna suck overnight because it is gonna actually freeze over. I don't know how bad it's gonna be, but we'll worry about that shit tomorrow. So today I wanted to, well, this evening, I wanted to talk to you guys about some of the books that I have finished reading recently. And yeah, they're not the ones that aren't so great. I'm leaving them off this video. I'm focusing on the ones that I absolutely adore for January 2019. I don't know what it is. I've hit a lottery where the books I'm reading are just they're spectacular. They're just amazing books, and I really want to uh what's that old saying with the Coke commercial you guys remember from the 70s and 80s? I want to give the world a smile. I want to give you all these books because they are awesome. So let's just hop into it and talk about the books that I am absolutely enamored with. So the first one surprises me because I didn't think I was going to like it because it is a book that was written after a movie, and that is 5 Feet Apart. You guys probably heard a lot of hype. There's a lot of buzz on this right now because the movie is coming out sometime. Excuse me. I believe it's sometime this spring. I want to say it's probably March or April. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. It could very well be out by now. Who knows? Um, I don't really pay attention to too many movies, obviously, because I got my head stuck in books all the time. But this book is by Rachel Lippincott with Mickey Daltrey and Tobias Iconis. I hope I said his last name right, but look at the cover, guys. First, let's just admire this beautiful cover. Um, wow. Wow, it's a gorgeous cover. I actually got this in the December Second Star Books box, and I was kind of hesitant about it at first because I didn't know if I really wanted to read it, because you know how books and movies go together. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're terrible. Simple favor. But yeah, so I picked this up, decided I was going to read it, and let me tell you, this book, so many emotions. And there was so many times I stopped and said to myself, why do you do this to yourself? You do this to yourself every single time. You get so invested in these characters and you end up a crying, sappy mess at your cubicle at work, and people ask, do we need to call your husband? That might have happened. But yes, so the book follows our protagonist. Her name is Stella, and I believe she is 17 years old in this, I want to say. And Stella has cystic fibrosis. Now, that is a disease that I'm not a doctor, so I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it's a disease that affects your lungs. So her entire life has been built around this disease. So she's been in and out of the hospital all the time. She has to worry more about her capabilities. You know, if it's cold outside, is that going to cause me to have breathing problems? Can I be near this person and not have to obsessively worry that they might be carrying a illness that is going to affect the way I breathe and can ultimately end my life? She has a lot of responsibility on her shoulders, and it's such a powerful it's powerful, it's inspiring, it's sad, it's everything. I don't know how many different emotions I went through with this book. I did seriously cry a couple of times in the process of reading this book, and a lot of times it will be like during lunch break, I'd have this book popped open, or I'd be listening to the audio book as I was working, and it would just get to a scene where it just left me just it it was so good, guys. It was so good. So Stella has to build her life around this disease, and she is in the hospital for another round of a trial that she is basically waiting for a lung transplant. And we know how that goes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So she's waiting around, but she's planning ahead on everything, like her high school or her high school friends are in Cabo right now. She planned the trip, but she couldn't go because of her illness. So you feel that pain it is to be not only a teenager, but a teenager with an illness. While there, she interacts with her friend Poe. I love Poe so much. He is in the hospital with the same problem, but he's such an amazing character. You just want to snatch him up and hug him close to you and protect him from everything and everyone out there. He loves Gordon Ramsay. I connected with that because I love Gordon Ramsay myself. He's just quite a character. He lives fully by the moment. So I think he's kind of the yang to Stella's yang. Stella is so reserved and contemplative, where he is like impulsive and he tries to live his life to the fullest. So we have those two characters, and then of course we have our love interest. His name is Will, and Will has a different type of respiratory disease, and I can't remember what it's called. It's an unusual one. It's one I've never heard of, but because of this disease, he is more. It's more possible for him to pass on any sort of illness over to Stella that could cause. It could be a life or death situation. So that's where we come up with the name 5 Feet Apart. And during their whole interactions with each other, they have to keep 5 feet apart. And over time, they grow to become friends. They start off as not liking each other, gradually become friends, and end up falling in love. And you get to see that whole experience. And it's heartbreaking. It's beautiful. And it just, oh, guys, it was so sweet. I think the only thing that I had issues with is it's kind of an insta love. Not necessarily full blown insta love. It takes a little bit of time, but then it goes from I don't like you that much all of a sudden to I love you. So, it is what it is. But still an incredible book. I think I gave this 5 stars on Goodreads. It's a young adult, but I think anybody can relate to this book. So yes, 5 Feet Apart. Check it out. I'd highly recommend reading it before seeing the movie. That's just me. The next book that I really enjoyed, and some people are going to be like, I don't like her. She is kind of controversial. In the sense that she has like a connection to LuLaRoe. I don't know what that connection is. I don't follow the LuLaRoe crap. But I got this book because my niece was talking about it. She was just all over about it, and she really wanted me to read this book with her. And that book is Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. I picked this up during Christmas. It was actually during the VIP sale at Joseph Bath that was like closed to just members. You go in, you get Uber discounts on your books, and it was great. So I really did enjoy this book. I actually gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And the reason why I like this book is it talks about Rachel's life and just trying to keep yourself from lying to yourself. Does that make sense? So you remember the game Two Truths and a Lie. You usually play it when you start up with a new company or you play it in the classroom, whatever. So you tell 2 truths about yourself and you tell a lie and people have to guess what's going on. The premise of the book is similar to that. So she gets all her lies and lays them out. So lies that she tells herself. I'm a bad mother. I'm a bad wife. I am week. It just goes down the line. And then she spins it to talk about the truth. So the truth would be her realistic expectations. So of course, people are perfectionists by heart, and this is really looking at why we are so obsessed with perfection within ourselves, and how we need to just simply give ourselves a break. So I'm going to read some of the titles here. The Lie, Something Else Will Make Me Happy, or The Lie, I'll Start Tomorrow, The Lie, I'm Not Good Enough. And then the one that I think I resonated with the most, she actually has one that's really funny. The Lie, I'm Going to Marry Matt Damon. I'm not a big Matt Damon fan, so hey girl, if you want him, you can have him. The one that resonated with me the most is The Lie, I'm a Terrible Writer, because I struggle with that every single day. So she talked about her experiences with that, because she was very grassroots in her writing. She didn't have a publisher that got behind her. So I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, there is some controversy with Rachel Hollis, and I kind of went in without looking at that stuff and just looked at the book itself. I didn't really research what all the details was, so I won't be able to help you with that. I did enjoy this book. Like I said, I gave it about 4 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to actually have a conversation with my niece about this. My niece is a new mother herself. She is, how to think here, she's 25 now, 24, 25, and she is dealing with life as a single parent, one-year old. So she needs some motivation, and this book, I'm so glad that I got it for her for Christmas, and I really hope that she does sit down and read it so we could discuss it and kind of get our thoughts together. But one of the things that might be a little bit troublesome for a lot of people, well, some people, is the religious context in the book. So she does reference God quite a bit. She is a devout Christian. So if that's not your cup of tea, maybe don't look at this book, or read it and just kind of take that into consideration, and try to spin it into your own lifestyle, and see how you could create your own path without the religious context. So that's one of the lovely books I read. And this one, I have to thank Erin George yet again. Erin gets a lot of kudos in my videos nowadays, because just the recommendations. Every recommendation Erin has given me has turned into gold. So this is one of those recommendations. This is Educated by Tara Westover, and I spent probably 15 minutes of a dinner conversation with my friend tonight telling her, you need to read this book. You need to read it ASAP. It is amazing. This book, guys, I think this is my favorite book of 2019 so far. I know it's just the beginning of the year, and there's so many other books that's coming and going, but this is one of those books that I know I'm going to reach for and read constantly. Let me tell you about this. So Tara Westover, this is a memoir about Tara Westover's journey with just growth and becoming a strong female presence. So she grew up in the mountains with her father and her mother and her very abusive, very aggressive brother, and just wow. This book was one of those books that also brought me to tears quite a bit. I'm honestly, it might sound like I've moved way too much, but honestly, it does take a lot to push me to get to that point where I'm like sappy and cryy. This book, it was wow. It was amazing. So Tara is inside this family, and this family, you guys probably hopefully remember what Waco was like, or Jonestown. It's a very survivalist family. So they don't believe in what the government does. They don't believe in public schooling. They're very gun-toady. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and they use religion a lot. Religion's great, but they were extremists with the religion, and they were reading it into their own context. Excuse me, I had a itch on my eyelash. This is driving me nuts. I'm not crying. So, just an example out of this book. Her mother is a midwife, and you have to go through so many different trainings and get certification to be a midwife. She just does it because God wants her to. At least that's what her this guy, this husband of hers tells her. And she uses a lot of homeopathic remedies to cure extreme things. So the father at one point gets terrible burns all over his face, and instead of taking him to a hospital where I think he was about to die, I mean, that's what the book gave me the impression of. He stayed at home and just put the salve on and dealt with the scarring that way, and everything was good. There was a time where the father was driving way too fast in really bad weather, wrecked the car, and it was just bad. Like, so many situations where you should have been at the hospital, and they just relied on God to fix it, and their herbs, and it's just intense. Some of this stuff was so intense that I had to skim over it almost, because like the detail of the injuries, things that automatically you should have went to the hospital for, it was all in there. Child Protective Services, if they actually had met Tara and met her family, they probably would have taken her out of her house so quick, a blink of an eye kind of quick, because of the situation at hand. But we're not here to focus on that part of her life. The Educated is about her educating herself, because she wasn't allowed to go to public school, and fighting the odds to go to college. So she, at 16, got a passion to go to college. She wanted to make things better. She didn't want to end up in her mother's footsteps on the mountains and becoming basically an illegal midwife and having to deal with all this crazy. She wanted more for herself. So she went to get a job at the grocery market. She saved all her money, got a bunch of books, and whenever she could, she would sneak and study these books and prepare herself for the SATs. And she would prepare herself until she got, I think the score was a 20. I think she finally got 27. And she was able to enroll into college. From there, she went from the college in her small hometown to a program in England. She went to Cambridge. I believe she ended up getting her doctorate in Harvard, if I remember right. So, huge, huge steps. Obviously, she didn't have any money either, because her parents didn't believe in any sort of aid or anything. So, everything, she worked for grants, she worked for scholarships and stuff, and she carried out so many different jobs just so she could make ends meet and basically become independent from her family. So you see this journey in front of you. And the book, oh gosh, I loved it so much. I ended up giving that 5-star review on Goodreads. And it's just such an incredible book, and it's real life. Like, this is something that really did happen to her. So it is a New York Times bestseller. I can tell you the library has been getting bombarded with requests on this book. I had a request for, I think it was the audiobook, and it was like 12 weeks out. So I ended up buying a copy of the book because I just couldn't wait anymore. And it's one of those books you just have to be in the mood for. Super fast read. I finished it within a day. Definitely 5 stars. Thank you so much, Erin, for recommending this book. It has really given me so much information, and so much insight And most importantly, it has been really inspiring. So, yes, I love this book. All right, next few books I have. Let me go ahead and pull them up. Those were audiobooks that I had read throughout the week at work. Because I've been working so many shifts at work that I just, yeah, I just need something to keep myself occupied while I'm typing away and just selling my soul to corporate. So, one of the books that I had the pleasure of reading was A Heart and a Body in the World by Deb Caletti. And that's what the cover looks like. It is a young adult contemporary. And I ended up giving it 5 stars as well. It's about this girl who has been the victim of, I don't want to give too much away because she's been the victim of violence and of assault. We'll just put it that way. I can't find the better terminology for it, but unwanted advances, we'll say that. And she is trying to work through her grief and work through the guilt that she has as a survivor through going on a cross-country run. And she just does this one day because she's just trying to get away from all the things that have been haunting her. And it turns out she creates a movement. She becomes a reluctant crusader, if you will. And the thing that happens is she's running across country, and her grandfather, a very ornery Italian man, follows her in his RV and helps her through the grieving process, and also gets her to open her heart to other possibilities, such as meeting new people and meeting new friends and making new connections. So it's such a powerful book, and it was one of those books that was very emotionally driven. I can tell you there are some trigger moments inside the book that might cause any survivor of violence of any realm, if you want, that might cause some discomfort or might cause a trigger of some sort. So please take that into mind. Maybe do a little bit of research if you choose to pick up this book. But it was such an amazing audio book, and it was such a good book that I ended up buying a hardback copy of it because I want to read it again when I have some free time where I'm not at work listening to it. So that once more is, oops, it keeps locking. It's such a long title that sometimes I forget how it all goes. A Heart and a Body in a World by Deb Caletti. Very awesome. And it was just released in October. Young adult contemporary. Definitely check it out. It's really worth the read. And another book, without getting too political, that I really enjoyed was Becoming by Michelle Obama. And it focuses on just her life in general. So we get a glimpse into her childhood. We get a glimpse into her going to Princeton and beating the odds there. She actually went to Princeton for a prospective visit and was told by a counselor that she wouldn't stand a chance. And she proved that counselor wrong and got into Princeton. So it's like, go you. We talk about her first meeting with Obama, and it was so funny how they met. And I'm just going to leave that there. If you guys pick up the book, you'll obviously see it. It speaks to the character of Barack Obama for sure. And it talks about her life in the presidency. So it covers the whole grounds. And she does talk about briefly some of the current things going on with the current administration. We won't go into that because I don't like getting political on my channel. But it is definitely a good read. I ended up giving that 5 stars as well. So the next book that I read is another biography, and that biography is In Pieces by Sally Field. I gave that 4 stars, and let me go ahead and pull up the cover. I'm sure you guys have seen it. I believe it's getting up there in the New York Times bestseller list, if I'm correct. but it follows the story of Sally. It's read, if you do the audiobook, it's read by Sally Field, which is a really nice touch. And she talks about her life as a child, as an actress, and as a daughter ailing a mother that's battling breast cancer and dying from breast cancer. The book does have some trigger issues concerning sexual assault. So I do want to point that out for any survivors out there. We definitely want to make sure that, I personally want to make sure that I'm giving that information out to anyone. That way they're prepared, because I know that triggers do happen. I've experienced it myself. Very good book, though. I did enjoy quite a bit. There is a talk about the Monkees, because she was on the same set as the Monkees television show in the 60s. So she's had a couple cameos with them as well. Another book that I finished is 10% Happier, How I Tamed the Voice in My Head and Reduced Stress. Oops, I went a little too fast. Reduced stress without losing my edge and found self-help that actually works. A true story. So that's a long one. But this is by Dan Harris. And if you guys remember, oh, I did it again. If you guys remember, there was a talk about him on, I think it was the Today Show, or no, it was Good Morning America. I'm sorry. He was one of the anchors on Good Morning America. I think he still is, actually. And he had a panic attack on the air. So this is him going through kind of the breakdown of what really happened that day when he had his panic attack and how he overcame that and became a stronger character through meditation and Buddhism. I found it quite incredible. I do practice Buddhism, and I do a lot of meditation. So that's something that I could easily reflect with. I gave that book 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like he was kind of dragging at the very beginning of the book, talking about, how he got into journalism and such. Not really a bad thing, but it just wasn't something that I really was all gung-ho and crazy about. So those are the books that I would love to recommend for you guys this January. I know a lot of people are trying to find inspiring things to read right now, and I personally found all those books quite inspiring. I just dropped my slipper, so I'm trying to slip it on my foot as I'm talking to you. So yeah, if you like those books, and have read them, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you didn't like them, let's talk about that too. And also, if you have book recommendations, I am always up to listen to those. As you could tell, I am very receptive to any recommendations you may have. Now, final thing before I let you guys go is the live show is going to be coming up on the 26th at 4:30. That live show is going to be focusing on the book Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. And this is going to be a live show mainly hosted by my dear friend Tamara over at Reads and Giggles. I keep getting that mixed up, Reads and Giggles. If you haven't had her checked her out yet, you guys have to go check her out. She's amazing. Watch my announcement video. That gives you a little bit of detail of the readathon or the buddy read that we're going to be doing with this book as well. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope everyone's doing well. Happy Saturday. Bye.